American history is filled with iconic figures and dramatic events, but many widely accepted beliefs are rooted more in myth than fact. Let's dive into some of these misconceptions that have shaped our understanding of the past. First up, George Washington. Many envision him as a towering giant, often said to be 6 to 6 tall. In reality, he was about 6 feet tall and measured around 6'3.5" at his death. This exaggeration turned into legend, despite clear documentation of his actual height. Then there's Thomas Jefferson and ice cream. It's a common myth that he introduced this beloved dessert to America from France. In truth, ice cream was already enjoyed in the colonies long before Jefferson's time. Recipes existed in New York and Philadelphia in the 18th century, showing that he wasn't the pioneer many believe him to be. And what about Benjamin Franklin? The tale that he proposed the turkey as the national bird is a misinterpretation of his private letters. While he admired the turkey, he never officially suggested it as a symbol for the nation. This myth grew from a personal opinion into a national narrative. The story of Molly Pitcher, often linked to Mary Ludwig Hayes, is another example. Historians now agree that Molly Pitcher represents multiple women who supported soldiers during the Revolutionary War. This oversimplification diminishes the contributions of many brave women who served on the battlefields. Consider the famous story of Washington placing a stone in a wall to teach a corporal a lesson. This tale, meant to highlight his humility, lacks evidence and first appeared in a veteran's pension application decades later. It's more folklore than fact. Most people believe the U.S. declared independence on July 4th, 1776, but the actual vote for independence happened on July 2nd. The Declaration was adopted on July 4th, making it the date we celebrate, but it's not the true moment of decision. Paul Revere's midnight ride is another myth. He wasn't the only rider, and he likely didn't shout, "The British are coming." Most colonists still considered themselves British. This narrative was popularized by Longfellow's poem, which simplified a complex event. Columbus didn't set sail to prove the earth was round. Educated Europeans already knew that. His voyage was based on a miscalculation of distances, leading him to mistakenly believe he had reached Asia. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't end slavery nationwide. It only applied to Confederate states, leaving enslaved people in border states still in bondage. Its significance was more symbolic than a complete liberation. And what about the Pilgrims? The story of them landing on Plymouth Rock is largely a myth, first mentioned 121 years later. It became a symbol of American origins, but lacks historical evidence. Prohibition is often seen as a total failure, but it did lead to a significant drop in alcohol consumption and some public health improvements initially. The narrative of complete disaster overlooks its complexities. Robert E. Lee is often romanticized as a noble general, while Ulysses S. Grant is labeled a butcher. In reality, Lee's tactics resulted in higher casualties for his army, challenging the myth of his heroism. Lee's surrender at Appomattox didn't mark the end of the Civil War. The conflict continued with other Confederate forces until late June, and it wasn't officially declared over until 1866. The Founding Fathers weren't united in their vision for America. They had deep divisions over issues like federal power and slavery, leading to a constitution filled with compromises. The American Revolution wasn't just a fight against tyranny. Economic interests and civil conflicts played significant roles, complicating the narrative of a unified struggle for freedom. Thanksgiving is often portrayed as a peaceful celebration, but the reality is more complex. The 1621 feast was likely a political meeting, shaped by later romanticized narratives. The image of pilgrims in black and white clothes with buckles is a myth. They wore a variety of colors, and the buckled style emerged later, distorting our view of early colonial life. Betsy Ross didn't design the first American flag. The story emerged nearly a century after the Revolution, with no evidence linking her to its creation. Not all colonists supported the Revolutionary War. Estimates suggest only a third favored independence, while many remained loyal to Britain, highlighting the internal divisions of the time. Finally, the idea that the U.S. has always been a democracy is misleading. Early voting rights were limited to white male property owners, excluding many groups. The journey toward political equality has been long and ongoing. These myths remind us that history is often more complex than the simplified narratives we've come to accept. Understanding the truth helps us appreciate the rich tapestry of our past.